Picks, this is Gerard, and today we're going to be doing a best bets video for UFC Perth, Jack Della Maddalena versus Carlos Prates. Now, before we get into that, we got to talk about last week's card, Sterling versus Zola. And we didn't have the best day here, even though we had a lot of good picks on the card. We just weren't able to put together the parlays the way we usually do. But, I mean, we're down 3.07 units. Not too much. We're not too down, but it's still 3 units right there. Yeah, I had the McVeigh and Montague and Max Griffin parlay, which instead of Griffin, I should have just taken him out or put in Sterling, which we had in a few parlays, I believe. No, we had Sterling in one parlay. That one almost hit, but Griffin couldn't get the decision in that fight versus Victor. And yeah, we had Montague as the Gigalock parlay piece, which we should have just added with a lot of our underdog picks that we had that ended up winning, but weren't able to make it on this official picks, our official bets. So we got to do better at that. But the only one that cashed was Montague and the Span parlay, which was plus 169. That one hit. The Luna Martinetti wasn't able to get it done with the Davy Grant. We should have just had Montague and Sterling as a parlay instead, but you win some, you lose some. This one was a down week for last week, down 3.07 units, but we're looking to bounce back, get into a better groove at this UFC Perth card. So without further ado, let's get into the best bets for UFC Perth, JDM versus Prates. Now, I do have a few plays, but I feel that it's best we give our best plays here for this card after the down week last week. And to start it off, I'm going to go with a confident pick who's at decent odds right now. And that is this fight right here, Shamil Gaziev versus Brando Peričić. Now, in this fight, we got Shamil Gaziev. He's coming off of a loss to Waldo Cortez Acosta, who basically knocked him down with the jab in that fight. And there was some flurries there. Waldo looked like he was in some trouble, but he was able to catch Gaziev with a well-timed jab that he wasn't expecting. And over to Brando Peričić, in his last fight versus Louie Sutherland, we see all the athleticism, all the city kickboxing striking that he has for his 6'5" frame, 79.5 reach. He started off as a minus 145 slight favorite, but right now on Bet Online, my man, Brando Peričić is a minus 130. And I do believe those are pretty good odds. You put 1.3 units to win 1 unit. I don't think Gaziev will be able to handle all the power and striking and athleticism that's coming at him from Brando Peričić. Gaziev doesn't have the best head movement. He's kind of slow in his footwork. And I think he could be at moments look like a sitting duck for Brando Peričić. Now, on the Gaziev side, he can grapple. He has been able to take down some fighters in the past. He finished Thomas Peterson before that, Waldo Cortez. That Martin Buday, he was able to finish Buday, who hasn't even really lost, really. I think he's out of the UFC, but Buday is no longer in the UFC. He lost by elbows and punches, standing TKO for Shamil Gaziev in that fight. And he got Dontal Mays, Thomas Peterson, and now Waldo Cortez loss. To be honest, he was on a bit of a hype train for being a potential contender, after putting them against Rosenstrike, who he wasn't able to go the full rounds, and he was only able to land a takedown, I think, only early in the fight. So his cardio may not be fully there. It may be there for 1 or 2 rounds, but it seems like Gaziev can, if this fight goes over over one round. He might not be able to compete if it was all stand up for the full 3 rounds against Brando Peričić, who, of course, Brando Peričić, on the other hand, hasn't really gone over 1 or 2 rounds, really. You see a lot of round 1 wins here. He's not so much proven, but I mean, he is at City Kickboxing. They are known to have good takedown defense, so I'm expecting that his 6'5" frame will be able to withstand, for the most part, the grappling, where I believe Gaziev is only dangerous in round 1 against Brando Peričić in the grappling. I don't know if his cardio can hold up and to continue to grapple for rounds 2 and 3. And in all honesty, in round 1, I can see a Brando Peričić knockout, like what we've seen him against Louie Sutherland. I don't know if Gaziev will have the head movement or the mobility to stay away from any of those big shots that Peričić may land. Even though Gaziev has a power right hand of it for himself, I just don't think he has it in this fight after what we saw against Waldo Cortez Acosta. So that's what I have right here. Brando Peričić, money line, -130. That's the first play that I got. Now for the second one, honestly, this is a bit of a confident pick for myself as well, and these are at good odds. And that is the main event, Carlos Prates at -110 right now on BetOnline. Now for this fight, Carlos Prates, Jack Della Maddalena. JDM, I like JDM's stand-up, his striking, but over his recent fights, if you go over Basile Hafez, Kevin Holland, Gilbert Burns, Bilal Muhammad, and Islam Makhachev, in those wins, you could say that record is a little bit suspect in those wins. I mean, the Basile Hafez, he won by split decision against a guy who wasn't even ranked. And Kevin Holland, he won a split decision against a long, lanky Kevin Holland, who I think at that time didn't seem like he was fully committed to winning fights 2 years ago. 2 years, 7 months ago was that fight. And that was fairly competitive for a split decision against Kevin Holland. And now you're going to face a Carlos Prates. That's doesn't give me the greatest confidence there. And the Gilbert Burns fight, Gilbert Burns was looking like Gilbert Burns still. I mean, JDM was on his way to losing that fight up until he turned it on in that last round and able to knee him and knock him out with ground strikes. And that was the last of Gilbert Burns that we've seen from ever having a chance at winning a fight, I think. And as for that Bilal Muhammad fight, I think Bilal Muhammad just fumbled that fight, to be honest. I think he thought he was Canelo. He had the Canelo hands. And in the stand-up fight against JDM, in the boxing match, primarily, I don't think you're going to get your way in that type of a fight against JDM. But for Carlos Prates, if we look at his record, I mean, he's the only guy to knock out Leon Edwards. And he was the first one to knock out Jeff Neal with that crazy spinning elbow. He's finishing guys spectacularly, aside from the Ian Machado Gary, where he could have almost finished a fight, but he didn't have the cardio in the last round to put everything he had in a finish. And he finished Neil Magny, Jiang Liang. We see a lot of finishes aside for the Ian Gary fight. I think we're going to see a little bit of the same in this fight, although I do think JDM he's going to bring it in Australia, and it'll look more competitive. I'll say it like this. This fight is going to look very competitive, I believe, up until it's not. And by that, I mean the point where it's not competitive is when Carlos Prates has that moment. He finds a finish. He gets you with whether if it's a knee, a straight left, that laser beam left, he can put you out. And he's done that time and time again. Leon Edwards, Jeff Neal with the spinning. He's a more dynamic striker, and he's got the leg kicks that JDM was having trouble with against Islam Makhachev. So I think you got to go Carlos Prates even at pick 'em odds. It's pick 'em odds. Give me Prates all day. I'm not even mad at. I'll even throw this one at you at plus odds. I even think the Carlos Prates by knockout plus 150 is a decent bet as well. So those are two of my best bets. Let's see. I mean, if you were to parlay them, you get a plus 238, but obviously that is a bigger risk factor there. And if I had to say which fighter here would be more suspect of not hitting, that would be Brando Peričić, I believe. I think I'm more confident in Carlos Prates than I am of Brando Peričić. Being a lot of weird things can happen in a heavyweight fight. Anybody can get knocked out. These are heavyweight swings, so that's one thing to keep in mind. And you know what? I think I'm even gonna throw an underdog on this fight. If I were to go down this card, the underdog that I do like, you know what? I'm really not sold on Colby Thicknesse. If you compare his fights, his schedule versus Vince Morales' schedule, if we look at right here, this is earlier in the card. I mean, Colby Thicknesse, his last fight, Musasa, he was outgunned in terms of the power, but he's able to win it there. He was able to get it going with some of the grappling, and Musasa's just a low IQ, all athlete type of fighter. I don't know if he can put anything together, really. I think he needs some better coaching in his camp. As for Alexandre Topuria, I mean, he came, I think that might have been short notice, but unanimous decision by Topuria. Aside from those two, I mean, his record isn't too much to give you confidence in. And as for Vince Morales, I mean, if you look at his losses, I mean, Raul Rosas, Elijah Smith, Taylor Lapilus, he was able to give them fits in those fights and was damn near almost able to lock in some submissions in some of those fights. And that Raul Rosas one, that was kind of scary if you had Raul Rosas in that fight, because there was a time where you thought, oh, Raul Rosas might get choked out at one point. But if you look down his record, I mean, he's been in and out of the UFC, so he's faced a lot of good fighters over this time. And one of his brighter days was when he's the last person to beat Ayman Zahabi by unanimous decision. That was back in 2019. But I mean, this guy put some respect on his name. He's got a lot of losses, but he also has some wins in good fights. And even in the losses, he's looked good in his losses. So I say that to say is I do not believe this warrants a minus 135 favorite, Colby Thicknesse. I think the favorite in this fight should be Vince Morales, just the pedigree of the competitiveness of his schedule and how he looked and how competitive he was in those better fighters that he was facing, even beating Ayman Zahabi way back when. So give me Vince Morales as my underdog on this card. If you're a little bit of a degen, all three of them together, that gives you plus 626. Obviously, the safer parlay, if you were to put a parlay from these three fights, I'd rather go with Prates, Peričić. That's plus 238. If I had to pick which fighter might spoil your parlay, that would be Brando Peričić. So Carlos Prates is the main one. I think James is much more confident in Carlos Prates than I am. You'll see this Friday what bets we put in our Pure Picks Pros members. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. And stay tuned. I'm ready for, well, we're probably not going to see UFC Perth because it's so late at the night. I think James will be back for UFC 328. So stay tuned for another UFC 328 video with him next week. And yeah, I think that's a wrap. Let's run it back one more time. Top of the card, plus 150, Carlos Prates by knockout. For the three best bets, Carlos Prates, Brando Peričić, and the underdog of the card for me, Vince Morales. And that is your best bets for UFC Perth. And this is Gerard signing out. Let's get it.